I am over at Playhouse Park with part of the cast of Higgins in Harlem, who has been kind enough to sit down with me just minutes before tonight's performance, so thank you all for that. I know you have a lot to do.
Of course, you're welcome.
Yes, and if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and introducing yourselves, please.
Sure. I'm Janelle Robinson, and I play Mrs. Higgins.
I'm Vanessa Butler. I play Clara Hill.
I'm Kevin Morrow, and I play Henry Higgins.
I'm Bob Johnson, and I play Conrad Pickering.
Wonderful. Okay, and this is an adaptation of Pygmalion, I understand, and would one of you please explain what that means and how it relates to My Fair Lady, which is perhaps the more well-known version of this story?
Should I take that one?
Take it.
Yeah, it is. It's based on Pygmalion, the original Pygmalion play, which most people have not read. What they have seen would be possibly the 1930s film version of Pygmalion with Leslie Howard, or the musicalized version with Rex Harrison, which was also a musical, stage musical, as well as a movie musical. This one being more based on the Pygmalion play, it's actually darker. The ending is not necessarily the happy ending that everyone expects, the bow being tied on top, the two of them falling in love. It's worth seeing, most definitely. It's another take on life and much more real to the way that we exist in our lives.
Yeah, with relationships and how people, depend on each other or not. And that's what I like about this adaptation of the piece. It's refreshing. I would say that much.
I particularly like the piece because it's a cast of 9, and we are all very individual characters. Nobody is like anyone else. So you really get a kaleidoscope, almost, of what the personalities were like back at that time. From rich to poor, educated, non-educated. Just life, as he says.
In that respect, dealing with the different cultures, the different levels of culture within a single culture, that dynamic is, I'm going to give that to you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so yeah, cultural dynamic. Well, okay, one thing I just really want to say that I love about this piece is I feel like there's not enough light shown on the complexities and the spectrum of African Americans in society today. I feel like a lot of modern culture, media, show business focuses on the poorer classes of African Americans. You don't really get to hear about the affluent,
Unless it's the
educated.
stereotype.
Exactly.
Right.
And so what's really fun about this play, and also the fact that if you are an African American who has education, who has affluent, all of a sudden your blackness is debatable.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I love about this play is it is valid. Like, we are validated here. Then you have Eliza, who's up and coming. She's from the lower classes, but then she gets integrated into the upper classes, and the issues that she has doing that without the education is incredibly relevant, I think. And just the fact that the culture of blackness is still there, even though you have this hierarchy, which I feel like a lot of people don't believe can happen.
And Eliza then still has the question of, now that she is this upper class kind of a person, how does she fit in?
Right.
Yeah, how will it work?
How do I make that work? And not really wanting to deny where she's from necessarily, but how do I make this work now?
Sure.
And the fact that you can make it work. There's nothing about yourself or your culture that you are denying in upward mobility, which is fabulous.
Definitely.
And it's just interesting because we have this idea that blackness goes hand in hand with the lower class thing. It's like, it's weird. It's all a class thing. It's all a class thing. It has nothing to do with race, but for some reason they're coupled together.
Yes, if you speak well, then that means you're denying your heritage.
Yeah.
Right.
So your
culture.
identity, in a way, gets wrapped up in this class consideration, which is almost implied, and this is certainly a great play to explore that, right? Because this play
It's the
takes
perfect
someone,
realm
right,
to do that.
absolutely.
I don't want to I don't think I want to either, to say that it's only a black thing. I think in any culture, if you are learning to speak correctly,
Right.
Trying to better yourself, just trying to better yourself.
in your own culture, to a certain degree goes, oh, so you don't want to be one of us anymore.
Right.
Right.
It goes across the board, not just only in the black community.
And it is a serious topic, so it's nice to see.
The person we're missing
Oh,
that would come and best on this would be the guy who plays Doolittle.
right.
True.
Because at
yeah.
the end, he is
has a
left
huge
with all of this
transformation.
money, and he has to learn to speak better in order to give speeches to keep the money coming in. But he's not going to change.
Yeah.
His speech is going to change.
Yeah.
And the way he dresses is
But
going
his
to change. But
personality.
in his heart, he's still going to be the same Doolittle he was at the beginning of the play.
And
Or
I
as you say,
actually,
keep
I
it real.
Yeah.
love his line where he says, money has ruined everything.
Yeah.
Because I do think that that's very relevant in today's world, especially how many people do we know that, come into a little bit of money and suddenly their lives, totally different, and then end up losing it all and end up worse off than they were
I
beforehand.
started, right?
And I love that line. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because people do associate, money with a better life. If you have more money, then life will be better.
You have more money, you have more problems.
Right.
Quite often.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, the
Especially
fact
if you
that-
don't know how to handle it if it's brand new to you.
Right.
And you have more relatives.
All of a sudden.
They do
yeah.
come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just take Higgins for example. We have this thing in American culture where the idea that if you have more money, that means you have more integrity, or more better,
More class.
more class, or morals, or some sort of ethics.
Not necessarily.
And with Higgins, he's just a
Yeah.
jerk. He's
Yes.
a jerk,
As they're
and it's just
So it's
not
perhaps
missing any words, as they're saying, my character is not very pleasant,
right.
as opposed to the versions that everyone is familiar with.
So it's not the benevolent soap opera version of the rich person who comes in and rescues and saves the day. It's more, I wouldn't say true to life, because then that's a stereotype of anyone who has
Exactly.
upward mobility, but occasionally it happens.
He's very focused
Sure.
on his work, and very passionate about it, and he's very headstrong, very headstrong, and in many ways very blind.
Sure.
Very blind. Just, this is the way it needs to be, this is the way I see it, this is the way it has to be.
Right.
He changes a bit, but not as much as an audience may expect.
Sure. So you don't get that character redemption that you
Oh,
really
no.
want with someone who's a little no.
Character redemption, oh, but no.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
You might want it, but no,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen.
Well, and it's all in how you read the end of the play too, because there are different interpretations
Yeah.
of how it ends. Different people feel different ways about.
Which is what's nice, I think,
Yeah,
about the
that's
play.
what's exciting.
Because it leaves it open to interpretation on the audience's end, as opposed to us informing them.
Right.
We give them the
And-
final, exactly,
the
we
picture.
give them a picture, and then they're left to decide, oh, wow, that's what happened, that's horrible, or, yeah, good for her, or, oh, I wonder what happens now, Dun, dun, dun.
Talking with audiences afterwards in the talkbacks, it's been interesting. They've all wanted to know, so what happened?
Well, that's a good
and-
story, though, that leaves you wanting a little more, too. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. Some want the little bow ending. Others agree with what they see, and others with what they see. They want to know what was the next step
Sure.
with my character as well as with Eliza. I don't want to mess it up for anyone, so I'm being vague.
Sure. No, absolutely. I think that was a very good conceptualization without too many spoilers.
Yeah.
So it's still a little bit of a mystery for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of seeing this performance yet. And could we just talk about the setting a little, and if you wouldn't mind your own personal experiences with the setting too, because I understand that you
Right.
live close by, correct?
One of the things that I found very interesting about the piece, it takes place in Sugar Hill, which is actually where I currently live in New York. And this is during the Renaissance of Sugar Hill, back in 1938 is when we placed the play. My character, Henry Higgins, lives at 145th and Amsterdam. I personally live at 145th and St. Nicholas, which is 1 block away.
Right.
There is a line in the play where I'm referring to my home, and each night I have to stop myself from saying 145th and Amsterdam, as opposed to, because I want to say my address. part of the life that I'm living now in Harlem is I've lived there since 88 was when I bought my place, is watching the neighborhood change and the new gentrification that is happening, but I prefer the word of renaissance for it, because we have so many different cultures there now. Name a culture, they're there. In my building, they're there, and everyone getting along. I prefer to think of that as being the definition of renaissance, of all the cultures coming together, as opposed to a gentrification and changing the entire flavor or culture of an area,
Sure.
what they're known for.
Sure. And how would you describe, for someone who hasn't been there, what the culture is in this particular section of New York?
Harlem has been traditionally known as the black part of New York, the urban part of New York. It was very affluent at one point. It went down, and it has come back up. It has gone down again, and it is coming back again. And now it is a mixture of cultures, as opposed to being, it is still considered to be the black part of New York, but there are so many other cultures there that I don't know how long that's going to hold.
Right.
But if we can keep, which I would like, if we can keep the flavor, the history of the area, that would be great.
Oh, sure.
And Bob,
Bob.
what's your history there?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I came to New York in 1970, and while the Renaissance was very much over, I quickly became a member of a singing group called Juanita King Singers, and at that time, Abyssinia, Mother Zion, and Convent Avenue Baptist were very much into the music cultural thing still at that time, and they had concert seasons. And
Those churches still exist. They're still very, very strong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very strong. Very strong.
And I participated in them, and I remember the Sunday, seeing, you would see people in Harlem working throughout the week, just wearing clothes, but on Sunday, I saw more mink stoles, coats, hats, men even in top hats. I mean, velvet
It sounds
tops,
pretty fabulous,
to
not
come
gonna
here
lie.
to do this. So
Yeah.
I'm reliving that.
Yes.
And I never thought I'd
Wonderful.
get a chance to, but I am.
And I have to say, the one thing about Harlem that I hold to, and there's a sense of this in most African American communities, is regardless of your class, there is always a sense of pride.
Right.
So if you were the owner, or if you worked in a barber shop on 125th Street, or if you were a lawyer that lived up on Convent in one of those brownstones, on Sunday, it didn't matter who you were. Like, there was a sense of pride in the community that, covered the entire community. And I don't know, I love, like, the pictures from Harlem Renaissance, that time period and whatnot. You see that in those pictures. And what's nice is that what is happening now in the neighborhoods up there, you see that coming back.
Yes,
I feel.
definitely.
So regardless of the Starbucks and all that kind of stuff that's up there, you have like the Red Roosters, and
Yep.
you have those places, and that pride is there. So.
People still dress in Harlem. When it's time to dress, people put it on, and it makes you feel very, very prideful.
Absolutely.
Very, very prideful. Something I've always enjoyed about my culture and also about Harlem is whatever you have, that everybody takes care of it. No one seems to mind who or what, in terms of who, moves in next to them, as long as you're taking care of your stuff.
Sure.
You take care of yours, I'll take care of mine, because we want to keep this like this.
So there's
We
a
don't
lot
want
of
it to go like
pride
this.
and community engagement.
Exactly. There's
Yes.
a pride in the community.
That's what's beautiful about this show, I think also, is the way we're dressed, the way that we carry ourselves, what we see in this show, I feel is a great deal of pride, regardless whether you're Doolittle or Higgins or Mrs. Higgins or Mrs. Hill, it's
Mrs. Pierce.
or Mrs. Pierce, yeah,
And
which
then the
really is
bottom line
telling.
is we all support each other in one way or another.
Yeah,
We all do support each other.
We
in this
do.
play. These characters do.
yeah.
Excellent. Oh, except for the more difficult characters, perhaps.
We
Of
try,
course.
we
They
try,
try
we
to
really
support me.
try.
I'm very,
You
yeah.
just don't like to listen.
This is very true.
Very nice. All right.
Heads as hard as a rock, boy.
Exactly.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's the world premiere of Higgins in Harlem at Playhouse on Park, March 5th to the 23rd.